Hey you guys, what's up? Mr. M here. Sorry I can't be with y'all in person today. Probably on a plane to Hawaii by now. But I still wanted to give you guys that review before the test, even though I'm not there. So first thing I want to talk about, y'all, is westward expansion, and specifically the Northwest Ordinance. Please remember that the Northwest Ordinance is that process that allowed the United States to add more states into the country. That's really important. Not only that, but it also banned slavery in those new territories. Take a look at the map to see all those new territories that we've talked about over the past couple of weeks. For example, that red one, take a look at the map, y'all, especially if your head's down right now. Take a look at the map, at the Mexican cession, the one in the red. So, yo, how did we get that Mexican cession? It's through a war with Mexico, obviously. And so, what happens for that war is that the United States President, James Polk, will kind of have trouble with Mexico because they're not sure where the border between Texas and Mexico is. And so what'll happen is both countries will send soldiers into that disputed area between the Nueces and Rio Grande River. They'll start fighting and it'll cause a war. Not fun. But eventually the United States will win that war, and the treaty that ends it was called the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. Please remember that. Not only that, you guys, but part of the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo says that the United States gets access to all that land, including California. And that's called the Mexican Cession, you guys. But take a look right below the Mexican Cession, and you'll see a small blue piece of land. And we call that the Gadsden Purchase. So the Gadsden Purchase we bought from Mexico. It's a purchase. And the reason we bought it, you guys, was so that we could build a train track, a railroad down over there. It goes below some mountains. We have to go around mountains to build this train. And the whole point of building that train there, you guys, was to make it easier for people to move to California and to that west coast. Awesome. So keep taking a look at the map. There's a bunch of other territories on there. For example, in the brown, there's the Louisiana Purchase. Remember, we buy that from France. And in the purple, in the bottom right, number four, for Florida. Remember, we get Florida from a treaty with Spain. That treaty was called the Adams-Onis Treaty. All right, awesome. That's westward expansion, you guys. Now I want to talk very quickly about the Industrial Revolution. And when we talk about the Industrial Revolution, first thing we got to mention are factories. All these factories. I'm not even going to go into what it was like working in a factory because y'all are experts in that already. But please remember that because factories started popping up in the United States, it means a lot of jobs were opening up in big cities. Because all these big cities were opening up in the United States with factories, and all these jobs were opening up, people start moving into cities like crazy, and the population of cities is going to absolutely skyrocket. On the other hand, in the countryside or the rural areas, the population is going to go down because everybody's going away to the city. Now, the main people working in factories were Americans, but there were also lots of immigrants, specifically immigrants from Ireland, Irish immigrants. And the reason why Irish immigrants were coming over to the United States, you guys, was to escape this huge tragedy that happened in Ireland, the Great Potato Famine. Remember, potatoes were the #1 source of food in Ireland, and a famine is when there's a huge shortage of food. So the potato famine really messed a lot of people up. People were dying in the streets, starving to death. And so in order to escape all that, these Irish people came over to the United States to work so they could get food, so they couldn't get it back home. All right. On to the topic of factories still, y'all. I want to talk about the Bessemer steel process. Remember, the Bessemer steel process is how the United States learned how to make steel from iron. And steel is important, y'all, because we used steel in railroads, specifically the Transcontinental Railroad, that huge railroad that went across the entire nation. The Transcontinental Railroad was so important, you guys, and the Bessemer steel process made it possible because it allowed us to produce steel really fast to make railroads super duper quick. That's the big reason why we were able to make so much railroads in so little time, because of that Bessemer steel process. Remember other inventions, like the cotton gin. Remember, there's two main effects of the cotton gin by Eli Whitney. Number one is that because it was so easy to use the cotton gin, the production of cotton increased by like 100 times in America. At the same time, there was a bad effect too, because the cotton gin allowed for more slavery in America. Slavery expanded as a result of the cotton gin. But the good side was that we were able to produce more cotton faster. Also remember interchangeable parts, you guys. Interchangeable parts are those small mechanical pieces that can be easily fixed or replaced by anyone. And that's what leads to mass production, the creation of these interchangeable parts. That's the Industrial Revolution. I want to talk very, very quickly about these social reform movements. So for example, first, we have the Second Great Awakening, which is all about people trying to become better versions of themselves, better people so that they can go to heaven. And that ties into all our other movements, like the abolition movement, the movement against slavery. Remember, you guys, lots of reasons to fight against slavery. One of them was a Christian reason, the religious reason of it's wrong for people to own other people. And in order to become a better person, you probably shouldn't be a slave owner. But there were lots of issues with the abolition movement, lots of steps backwards. For example, remember the Fugitive Slave Act? The Fugitive Slave Act, you guys, said that slave hunters could go searching in the north to look for escaped slaves to bring them back to the south. That was really dangerous because it hurt not only escaped slaves, but it also hurt freed African American people who had never been slaves. Now, the good part about this is that the Fugitive Slave Act really made a lot of people in the North angry, and it created a lot of supporters for the abolitionist cause, or the anti-slavery cause. Also remember the Women's Rights Convention, you guys, the Women's Rights Movement. Remember Susan B. Anthony, and things like the Seneca Falls Conference, or the Seneca Falls Convention. Those are all great things to remember when talking about the women's rights movement. Another thing that women led during this time period was the temperance movement, which was all about banning alcohol. Remember why the temperance movement happened. It's because these wives were sick and tired of their husbands coming home drunk and beating up their families. And so remember, temperance is about alcohol. All right, you guys, that's all I have for you today. Good luck on your test. Have a great 3-day weekend, and I will see you guys on Tuesday when I'll be back. Until then, take care. Good luck. Mr. M out.